Christmas Eve was supposed to be quiet. Asterisk snow fell softly outside the apartment windows, blanketing the city in white. The streets below glowed with warm yellow lights, carolers laughed in the distance. And somewhere a church bell rang slow, calm, forgiving. Asterisks. I stood on the balcony, holding a mug of hot cocoa that had already gone cold. Asterisks inside. My husband was angry again. From the outside, our life looked perfect. A successful husband, a beautiful apartment, asterisk holiday photos framed on the wall, smiles for social media. But perfection is often the loudest lie. Asterisk, my name is Alina Kata. And for 7 years I had lived inside a marriage that slowly erased me. Asterisk, it didn't start with violence. It never does. It started with control, disguised as love. Asterisk, why do you need to work so late? Asterisks, I just worry about you. Asterisk, your friends don't really care about you like I do. Asterisk, little by little, my world became smaller. I stopped wearing bright colors because he didn't like attention. I stopped laughing loudly because it annoyed him. I stopped calling my sister because he said she filled my head with nonsense. And I stopped trusting my own instincts. Asterisk, that Christmas night, I felt something was wrong. He had been drinking. Not enough to be sloppy, just enough to be dangerous. Asterisks, you think you're better than me now? He asked, his voice low, calm, controlled. I didn't answer. Silence always made him angrier. Asterisk, I made you, he said. Without me, you are nothing. I stepped onto the balcony to breathe. The cold air hit my face like a warning. I wrapped my arms around myself and stared at the city below. 20 stories down, everything looked small, cars like toys. People like shadows. I remember thinking, if I just stay quiet, this night will pass. I was wrong. I felt his presence behind me. Before I heard him, you don't walk away from me, he said. I turned. Asterisk, his eyes were empty. Not angry, not emotional. Asterisk, just decided. I opened my mouth to speak. I never got the chance. Asterisk, his hand shoved my shoulders with a force I didn't expect. My mug shattered against the railing. My body tipped forward. Asterisk, for a split second, time froze. Asterisks, I remember the sound of my own breath, leaving my chest, the sky above me, the lights below me. Asterisks, and one clear thought. So, this is how I die. But death didn't take me. Asterisk, I hit a lower balcony hot. Asterisk, pain exploded through my body like fire. Then darkness. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital. Machines beeped. My body felt broken, but I was alive. The doctor told me I was a miracle. A few inches difference, and I wouldn't be up. My husband was already there when I opened my eyes. Tears streamed down his face. His voice shook. His performance was flawless. Asterisk, they said you slipped. He whispered. Asterisk, I should have been there. I should have protected you. I stared at him. And for the first time in years, I saw him clearly. This man didn't save me. This man tried to erase me. Asterisk, but something had changed. The fall didn't kill me. It woke me up. Asterisk, I couldn't speak yet. My ribs were broken. My legs shattered. My body wrapped in pain. Asterisk, but inside my chest, something stronger than pain was beating truth. And I made a promise to myself right there in that hospital bed. Asterisk, if I survived this, I would never be silent. Again, that was the beginning, not the end. Asterisk, not even close. The hardest part of surviving wasn't the pain, it was the disbelief. When I finally regained my voice, my body was still broken, but my memory was sharp. Every second of that night was burned into my mind. The push, the emptiness in his eyes, the silence after I fell. I told the nurse first, then the doctor, then the police. My husband pushed me. I said, my voice weak but steady. The room went quiet. They exchanged looks. The kind of looks people give when a truth makes them uncomfortable. Are you sure? One officer asked gently. It was Christmas night. Alcohol was involved. Accidents happened. Accidents. That word felt like another shove. He did it. I repeated, I didn't slip. They nodded. They wrote things down. They smiled politely. And then nothing happened. Because outside that hospital room, my husband was already building his story. He cried in front of nurses, held my hand when visitors were around, prayed loudly with the hospital chaplain. He became the perfect grieving husband, the man who almost lost his wife, and America loves a good performance. Friends came with flowers and casseroles. Neighbors whispered about how tragic it all was. Social media filled with comments. So grateful she survived. He never left her side through love. I watched it all from my hospital bed, unable to walk, unable to escape, unable to scream, but inside me, something was changing. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid of how his people believed him when I was released from the hospital. I didn't go home. The apartment where I almost died was no longer a home. It was a crime scene that no one wanted to investigate. Instead, I went to a rehabilitation center. White walls, quiet halls, painful therapy sessions. Every step hurt, but every step also reminded me, I'm still here. My husband visited every day, always kind, always gentle, always watching. You don't need to talk to the police anymore, he said once, brushing my hair. Baftasov, focus on healing, healing. He didn't want me healed, he wanted me quiet. One night, after he left, a physical therapist named Marissa sat beside my bed. She didn't smile like the others, she didn't rush, she looked at me and said something no one else had said. You didn't fall, did you? My throat tightened. I shook my head. Her eyes softened. My sister survived something similar, she said. People believed her husband too, until they didn't. That sentence changed everything. Until they didn't. The investigation stalled. No witnesses. No cameras on the balcony. No forced confession. And slowly, the blame started shifting. She was under stress. She had anxiety. Maybe she leaned too far. Maybe she imagined it. Gaslighting doesn't end with the abuser. It spreads, and soon, I started doubting myself. At night, painkillers blurred my thoughts. What if I remembered it wrong? What if I really slipped? That I would remember his face. Empty. Cold. Certain. The doubt would burn away. Rehabilitation was brutal. Learning to walk again is humbling. You don't feel strong. You feel helpless, dependent. Embarrassed, but something powerful happens. When you rebuild yourself from nothing, you stop pretending. I stopped pretending I was okay. I stopped pretending my marriage was normal. I stopped pretending silence was safety. In therapy sessions, I finally said the words out loud. My husband tried to kill me. Saying it didn't break me. It freed me. Meanwhile, my husband grew impatient. You're changing, he said one afternoon. You used to trust me. Trust. That word made me smile for the first time in weeks. I trust myself now, I replied. His jaw tightened. That's when I knew. The man who pushed me off a balcony was afraid. Not of the law, of my voice. Late one night, unable to sleep, I asked for my phone. I scrolled through old messages. Photos. Emails. When I saw it, a deleted folder I had never opened before. Inside were emails, angry, threatening messages he had sent during arguments. One voicemail where his voice cracked with rage. If you ever leave me, you'll regret it. My hands shook. This wasn't an accident. This was intent. And suddenly, the fall made sense. That night, I didn't cry. I planned. Survival isn't just staying alive. Survival is learning how to fight back smartly. I contacted a lawyer quietly. I saved every message. I backed up everything. And for the first time since Christmas night, I felt something stronger than fear. Purpose. Fear doesn't disappear all at once. It fades in pieces. Mine faded the day I realized I no longer cared what he thought of me. That realization didn't come gently. It came in the form of a letter slid under the door of my rehabilitation room, written in his handwriting. We can still fix this. Don't destroy our lives. Not his life. Our lives. I folded the paper carefully and placed it in my bag. Another piece of evidence. My lawyer's name was Daniel Reeves. He wasn't loud. He wasn't dramatic. He listened. When I showed him the emails. The voicemail, the letter. His expression didn't change, but his posture did. This isn't a slip, he said calmly. This is a pattern. Patterns are powerful in court, especially when they expose intent. We filed a formal complaint. This time, it couldn't be ignored. The police reopened the case. Quietly at first, then loudly. They interviewed neighbors again, requested building records, pulled phone data, and then something unexpected happened. A woman came forward. She lived 3 floors below us. She had heard something that night, a scream, not a fall. Asterisk, a scream. Asterisk, her testimony wasn't enough to convict, but it was enough to shake the foundation of his perfect image. The media caught the scent, and the story changed. Headlines stopped calling it an accident. They started asking questions. Asterisk, Christmas balcony fall. New evidence emerges. Survivor claims domestic violence was an attempted murder. My husband stopped visiting. His lawyer started calling instead, offering silence, offering settlements, asterisks, offering apologies that meant nothing. Asterisks, I refused them all, because money doesn't buy truth, and silence is expensive. It costs your soul. Asterisks, courtrooms are cold places, not physically, emotionally. Asterisks, when I entered for the first hearing, cameras flashed, strangers stared, some with sympathy, some with doubt. Victims don't get the benefit of belief. We earn it, painfully, step by step. Asterisk, I walked in, on a cane, slow, unsteady, unapologetic, and for the first time, he didn't look powerful. He looked nervous. He denied everything. Asterisks, of course he did, and he cried again. He spoke softly. He told the judge how much he loved me. Love, according to him, just happened to include control, isolation, and violence. Asterisk, when it was my turn to speak, the room went quiet. Asterisk, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. Told the truth, exactly as it was. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, just real. And real is terrifying to liars. They played the voicemail in court. His voice echoed through the room, threatening, angry, unfiltered. Asterisk, the air changed. You could feel it. Masks were falling. Asterisk, that night, after court, I sat alone in my room. Exhausted, terrified, proud. Standing up doesn't make fear disappear. Asterisks, it just proves you're stronger than it. Letters started coming in. Emails. Asterisks, messages from women I didn't know. Asterisks, I believe you. Asterisks, your story gave me courage. Asterisks, I left my husband today. Asterisk, that's when I understood something important. This wasn't just my fight anymore. This was bigger than me. Asterisks, rehabilitation continued. I walked without the cane. I stood taller. I looked people in the eye again. Confidence doesn't return. Suddenly, it grows quietly like muscle. During one therapy session, my counselor asked me, asterisk, what do you want now? The old me would have said safety. The new me answered, asterisk, justice. The trial date was set. The stakes were clear. Asterisk, and my husband, once so sure of his control, was losing it. He called me late one night. I recorded the call. Asterisk, please, he said, you're ruining everything. No, I replied calmly, you already did. I'm just telling the truth. Asterisk, and I hung up. The courtroom was packed, not because of fame, not because of money, because people are drawn to truth when it finally fights back. I sat at the witness table, hands folded, heart steady. Cameras were not allowed inside, but the weight of public attention was heavy enough to feel in the air. Across the room, my husband sat stiffly beside his attorney. He didn't look at me. For the first time in years, he couldn't control the narrative. The prosecutor spoke calmly. This case is not about a fall, she said. It is about control, threats, and intent. They laid out the timeline. The isolation, the emails, the voicemail, the witness who heard my scream. The letter slid under my door, piece by piece. The image he had built of himself began to crack. Then came his turn to testify. He stood confidently. At first, he spoke about stress, about alcohol, about misunderstandings. He described me as fragile, emotional, unstable. I listened carefully, because abusers always reveal themselves eventually. All it takes is time. When the prosecutor asked about the voicemail, his voice changed. That was taken out of context, he said. Then explain the context. She replied, he couldn't. Silence stretched, and in that silence, the courtroom felt it. Truth doesn't shout, it waits. Then it was my turn. I stood slowly. The cane was gone. My legs still hurt, but they held me, and that mattered. I faced the jury, not as a victim, as a survivor. I loved my husband, I began. I trusted him with my life. My voice didn't shake. I didn't fall. I was pushed. I described the night in detail, the look in his eyes, the shove, the moment of weightlessness. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't need to. Reality was enough. Then I said something that changed everything. I stayed silent for years, not because I was weak, but because I was conditioned to believe my voice didn't matter. I looked directly at him for the first time since Christmas. But I was wrong. The room was silent. Even the air felt heavy. Cross-examination was brutal. They questioned my memory, my mental health, my motives. But every attempt to break me failed because I wasn't defending lies. I was standing on truth. And truth is solid ground. At one point his attorney asked, "Why speak now?" I answered without hesitation. Because surviving made me realize something. Silence almost killed me. When closing arguments ended, the jury left. Waiting is its own kind of torture. Minutes feel like hours. I sat with my lawyer, breathing, slowly, grounding myself. No matter the verdict, I had already won something priceless. Myself. The jury returned. Everyone stood. My heart pounded not with fear, but with anticipation. The foreperson spoke. "We find the defendant guilty." The word echoed. Guilty. Not just in court. In truth. My husband collapsed into his chair. The mask was gone. No tears, no performance, just defeat. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I closed my eyes and breathed, because justice isn't loud. It's final. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered, microphones were held out, questions shouted. I raised my hand. "I'm not here for revenge," I said. "I'm here to remind people, especially women, that survival is not the end of the story. It's the beginning." That night, alone in my apartmenta, new one, far away, stood by the window. No balcony. No height, just solid ground. I touched the scar on my arm. A reminder, not of pain, of power. Motivation message. USA audience. You don't need permission to speak. You don't need approval to leave. You don't need validation to heal. Your survival is proof enough. When you choose truth over fear, you reclaim your life. Freedom doesn't arrive all at once. It comes quietly in ordinary mornings, in small moments, when you realize you are no longer afraid. For me, that moment came months after the trial. I was standing in line at a coffee shop, the kind with soft music and big windows. The barista asked for my name, and for the first time in years, I said it without hesitation. No last name attached to fear. No identity tied to someone else, just me. Life after justice was not perfect. I still woke up from nightmares. Loud noises still made my heart race. Some days, my body ached like it remembered the fall before my mind did. Healing is not forgetting. Healing is learning how to live with the memory, without letting it control you. I started therapy again, not because I was broken, but because I was rebuilding. There is a difference. I've learned that trauma doesn't mean weakness. It means your nervous system survived something extraordinary, and survival is strength. People often ask me, "Are you angry?" I thought about it carefully. Anger had kept me alive in the beginning, but peace is what helped me move forward. I chose peace, not for him, for me. I moved to a different city, new streets, new routines, new air. I took a small apartment with sunlight in the mornings and plants on the windowsill. No balcony, no reminders, just space. Then something unexpected happened. I received an invitation. A women's shelter had followed my case. They asked if I would speak. I almost said no. Standing in front of strangers felt terrifying. But then I remembered the messages I had received during the trial. Women who left, women who spoke up, women who survived. And I understood. My voice didn't belong only to me anymore. The first time I spoke, my hand shook, but my voice didn't. I told my story not with anger, not with shame, but with honesty. I talked about the slow erosion of self-worth, the confusion, the fear, the silence, and then I talked about the turning point, the moment I chose myself. Afterward, a young woman approached me, tears in her eyes. She whispered, "I thought I was weak, but now I know I'm not." That was the moment I found my purpose. I began working with advocacy groups, helping survivors document evidence, understand their rights, rebuild confidence. I wasn't a hero, I was proof that life after abuse exists, proof that justice is possible, proof that strength can be learned. Some nights, I still think about the fall, but not with fear, with gratitude, because it taught me something no easy life ever could, that the human spirit is stronger than gravity. 1 year later, on Christmas morning, I woke up early. Snow fell softly outside. I made coffee, I lit a candle, I sat quietly, and instead of dread, I felt peace.